Hello and welcome to another video. Today I am going to be ranking all of Rick Riordan's books. By all of his books, I mean all of the ones that he has written that are in kind of the Percy Jackson universe. So sadly, this excludes all books from Riordan Presents. Since I haven't read any of the others, I can't judge them fairly. So in this video, we will be focusing on his 5 book series. So that would be Percy Jackson and the Olympians, Heroes of Olympus, The King Chronicles, Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, and The Trials of Apollo. I didn't think ranking them would be this hard because there are certain books of his that I love so much, but apparently that made it even harder to rank them. So the ones at the bottom were easier because they're basically the ones that were most forgettable for me and that have less feelings attached to them. But sorting out the top 5, even the top 10, was very hard. So I tried to keep it as objective as possible, but we all know that is impossible when it comes to books and things in general. Now for the actual ranking. So at the very bottom, on number 20, we have The Trials of Apollo, The Tyrant's Tomb. This is the last installment of the series so far because we are getting a 5th final book. And honestly, I just read it and I don't remember much about it. I feel like they spent a lot of time to get to Camp Jupiter, and then we spent a lot of time at Camp Jupiter with Apollo just sleeping and not doing anything. And then the whole thing with Reina, the payoff I feel like was kind of sucked and wasn't like up to Rick's usual standards. And also the thing with Frank and his curse, I feel like that was handled very poorly because it felt like they didn't give it as much importance as it should have. I mean, at least he tried to resolve it because they basically just left it as a cliffhanger. It felt like Rick had forgotten about it, so at least he handled it here, but all in all, not my favorite book in the series, and I thought it was quite forgettable, and honestly not that necessary to read. I did like Apollo's and Artemis relationship in it though. That was the saving part. At number 19, we have The Throne of Fire in the King Chronicles. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, I've only read this book series once when I was 14, right after reading Percy Jackson, so I was a bit let down just because I was comparing the 2 book series. So I'm pretty sure if I read it now, I wouldn't I would like it so much more, but because I haven't read it, I don't remember it a lot. So it's sad, but most of those books are gonna be in the bottom. Then at number 18, we have The Red Pyramid, also in the King Chronicles. I just had this one a little bit higher because it's the first book, and I feel like I remember more from that one than from the second book. And then at number 17, we have The Serpent's Shadow. This is the third and final book in the King Chronicles book series, and I feel like I like this one so much better than the other ones. I don't know why. I feel like it was in this one that mean girl from the Aphrodite cabin makes a cameo, so I always love my cameos, so maybe that's why I put it a little bit higher in the list. Honestly, I don't know. And then coming in at number 16, I am very sorry to say this, but it's The Blood of Olympus. I'm pretty sure most of you knew it was coming. Unfortunately, there was a lot of hype around this book, and that's probably what made it so underwhelming for everyone. Not to mention, there was no Percy and Annabeth chapters, which I know it's not a big deal for a lot of people, but they were my favorite characters, and they had a lot of important character related moments just told through another character's point of view, which I did not like. I also did not like that. And the first time I read it, I didn't like Nico's and Reina's points of views, but the second time I read it, I thought they were very good. So that's not an issue for me anymore. But I feel like with the seven, the way things were resolved, there wasn't an epic battle, and that's what I wanted. So I wish it had kind of been more like the Battle of Manhattan. That was super epic, and there were high stakes, and people died. And I feel like in Blood of Olympus, there were no stakes. And that makes me sad because I really wanted to love this book. Then, coming in at number 15, we have The Trials of Apollo, The Dark Prophecy. Honestly, it's like I said before, most of the Trials of Apollo books are kind of forgettable to me, and I find that sad because I really like Apollo as a character, but I feel like everyone else around him is not are not such good characters. This is the one with Leo and Calypso, which is maybe why I don't like it as much, because I was very mad at Leo in Blood of Olympus for ditching everyone like that just to find Calypso. So, also, I don't really like their relationship. I wish it was platonic and not romantic, so maybe that's why it's so far down in the list. Then, coming up at number 14, we have Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Ship of the Dead, the third and final book. I feel like overall I really like this book, but like I said before, for Blood of Olympus, it was kind of overwhelming, especially in the climax, because it was just Magnus complimenting his friends, which was nice to see, and it was nice to see the difference between him and Percy, how they handle conflict, but I was kind of looking forward to a cool battle, so that's why it's down there. At number 13, we have The Trials of Apollo, The Burning Maze. And this one, the one of the reasons this is so high up for a Trials of Apollo book is because, well, spoiler alert, Jason died. And I never felt anything for Jason, but this book made me shed a tear, and I thought I would never have that kind of reaction to Jason. So that's why it left such an impression on me, because there were actual stakes in this book, and I felt that that really elevated the book for me. Even though for most of the book I feel like it was very slow and not a lot of things happened, but right there at the end, I really liked how they explored Piper's and Jason's relationship, their breakup, and how the aftermath of everything in Blood of Olympus. So, yeah, that's why it's so high up. Then at number 12, we have Magnus Chase and The Sword of Summer, the first book in his book series. And I feel like this is a very good first book. I love all of the characters and the side characters. And yeah, it's just not my favorite in the book series overall. Coming in at number 11 is The Son of Neptune, the lowest ranked book in the Heroes of Olympus series. And honestly, it's just because I don't like the characters as much. Obviously, I love Percy. He is my favorite character of all time. But even though I like Hazel and Frank, I'm not really invested in their relationship or themselves as characters. I do really like Hazel's backstory and have come to appreciate it more with the recent reread. But all in all, I don't know. This book didn't really click with me. I wish that Percy tried harder to contact his mom. I feel like Percy from Percy Jackson and the Olympians would have tried much harder to contact his mom once he remembered who he was. So that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Then at number 10, we have The Lost Hero. This one just barely surpasses The Son of Neptune because honestly, it has Leo and he is my favorite new character from the Heroes of Olympus. Like I said before, Jason is not my favorite, and I feel like Piper and her whole attitude, like I'm not like other girls, isn't very. It's not the best, so that's the only reason it's down here. Honestly, I think the plot is very good. If it had other characters, or if the characters were slightly different, I would like it more. So coming in at number 9 is The Trials of Apollo, the first book. And one of the reasons it's up so high is because this is the book where Apollo has the most character development. We also get to see Will and Nico being in an official relationship, and I just love that so much. They were so cute. I was so glad to see them together. And also seeing Nico happy and seeing more of Camp Half Blood, I thought that was really nice, really interesting. And seeing Apollo's kids and how they react to him being mortal, I thought that was very cool and a very interesting thing to dive deeper into. Coming in at number 8 is Magnus Chase and The Hammer of Thor. And this is my favorite Magnus Chase book because I think the plot is just the most intricate and the most well thought out of. I think this is my favorite, even though it is a middle book, which usually aren't my favorite, but I really like this one, especially because it's the debut of Alex Fierro, and I love them. They're the best. So, yeah, I just really like them and their relationship with Magnus later on. Coming in at number 8 is, of course, The House of Hades. It was hard putting this book this far down the list, but there are others that are just better. My favorite part of this book is obviously Persebeth in Tartarus, even though I found it very hard to read, but I thought it was very well done, and I think that Rick handled their difficult situation very well. Then at number 7, we have Mark of Athena. I couldn't have it any lower than this. It was literally Persebeth's reunion, so it just had to be there. I love them. They had such good moments. Also, I love their dynamic as the seven. I love how Percy and Jason butt heads at the beginning, and how Percy and Leo, who the fandom like loves to put together as the two troublemakers and the pranksters, don't get along as well as everyone else had thought, and I think there are a lot of cool character dynamics presented in this book. Then, I'm sorry, I've been counting these wrongs. Coming up at number 5, we have Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Now, as you all probably have guessed, Percy Jackson and the Olympians are all going to be in my top 5, so it was very hard to put them in their different ranks, but I think I'm happy with how I rank them. This one's just not my favorite, but I still love it, so there we go. I don't have any other reason why it's down here. Then number 4, it's Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse, mostly because Annabeth is not in it as much, and she's one of my favorite characters. But still, all the characters in it are just wonderful. I love Zoe Nightshade, I love Bianca, I love having the Hunters and Artemis, and I love that Nico's in it, so it's just overall really great, and it's the first book where a major character dies, so it really started that Percy Jackson is for middle grade, but it also can handle some dark subject matter, and I thought that was really cool. Then at number 3, we have Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. I surprised myself by putting this so low because for so long it was one of my favorite books, but after my reread, I thought it was still amazing, but the other ones, they hold a special place in my heart, so I had to put them above it. I love Percy's and Annabeth and Rachel's relationship in it. I thought it was so interesting. Obviously, their first kiss was super cute, and I love how Grover and Tyson start hanging out more together, and how even Clarice has a bit of a character arc in here. So I thought that was really interesting. And then number 2, we have Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. It was the book that started it all. It sparked my love for reading, for mythology, and I couldn't be more grateful to it. It's not, arguably, I understand it's not the best book in the series, but it just holds such a special place in my heart, and it's the book that started it all, so it had to be way up here. And it's just a great book overall, so it couldn't not be in the top 3. Finally, we have, of course, Percy Jackson and The Last Olympian, and do I even have to explain myself? The Battle of Manhattan is one of the best climaxes and final battles in any book I've ever read. It was so interesting. There were so many plot twists and twists in general that I didn't expect, and I loved how Rick Riordan handled it. It had stakes. Campers that we knew and loved died. Charles Beckendorf, R.I.P. And it had really cool character moments, and I loved that at the end it wasn't Percy who saved the world. It was him trusting someone who he thought to be the villain all along. So I thought that was a great twist on the chosen one trope. And yeah, this is just a book that I love so much, and I will reread till the end of times. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to me ramble about my love of Rick Riordan books for so long. Just leave your comments down below and tell me which is your favorite Rick Riordan book and which is your least favorite and why. Bye!